Hey everyone, I am Melody Ann, and this is Confessions of a Book Coach. I'm in the process of revising and publishing my memoir, and this is my journey. Right now, I'm working on a book proposal for my book. So this is week 16, and this week I delved into a YA graphic novel that's a memoir, and I'm learning quite a bit. Although half of me is loving this, and half of me just wants this part done. Can we just have the proposal done, please? Why do I have to read every book on the topic, right? I love reading. Don't get me wrong. I love reading. I enjoy exploring books, all books. And I'm really enjoying exploring books like mine. And at the same time, I just want the proposal done. So this is what we call a dialectic. No, I love it. I don't love it. I love it. I don't love it. No, I'm loving it. And sometimes I'm hating it. But I'm learning so much. And yet I'll be happy when it's done. So this week, I read Hey Kiddo by Jarrett J. Krosoczka. I think I'm pronouncing it better this week than I was last week. I think last week I really just mangled it. So apologies to Mr. Krosoczka. Hopefully I'm doing a better job this time. Now, I don't usually read graphic novels, so this was like an interesting opportunity for me to explore a graphic novel as well as a memoir that targets the same audience that I'm looking to read my book. So, Hey Kiddo is a graphic novel that also brings in images from the author's life, like old photographs and letters and cards and his old drawings as well. Now, the book deals with his coming of age with an addicted mother and an absent father. And it shows how he, through his love of art, I guess that love of art, like it helped him through the chaos of his youth. And I think anyone who comes through some kind of chaotic or traumatic youth has something, whether it's a person who they anchor onto, or something like a hobby they anchor onto, or a subject they anchor onto, but something that they anchor onto. So his anchor was his art. Much of the story is told through dialogue and very matter-of-fact language. And this is meant for the 14 plus age group, so it fits in perfectly with my memoir. Now, it does have a bit of graphic language. It's not just a graphic novel. It has some graphic language, but not more than The Devil's Daughter has. Maybe, well, he may use it more often, but I think he uses softer language than some of the language I use. That may land up being an issue for me. We will see. So some readers, some like reader reviewers commented that saying it was inappropriate for youth. My thought was, so if they get sworn at in their homes, but they can't read about that in books. So I have to disagree. I think that for the audience that I want reading my book, I want to be real. I want to like really show what it was like, so that so I'm not sugarcoating anything. I'm not pretending bad words weren't said, right? So here's some of my notes from Hey Kiddo. I was struck by the color in the drawings. For some reason, I think of comic books as colorful, which I know they don't always have to be. Although, this wasn't very colorful. It was some kind of, it had color. It wasn't black and white, but the tones weren't bright. The color, there was not like a lot of use of color. And I just assumed that this was a choice he made for this book. But then I started looking at his other books, and I realized this just might be part of his style. For example, another book used black and white and yellow, but that was it, just yellow, nothing else. So he does use color, but he tends to use it sparingly and kind of just a little, like just a few colors at a time. Although his book covers are like multicolored and really like colorful and exciting. Although I have to admit that I didn't look at all of his books, so I could have this wrong. One of my favorite parts of this book, so he drew and he did the dialogue and he did some story, but he also included notes and cards and letters and drawings and photographs from his actual life scattered throughout the book. I really like this. I thought it gave, context to the story, right? This is somebody's real life. It's not just a story thrown out there. So I thought it gave it a context. And I thought, what a great idea for a memoir not just for a graphic novel memoir, but just for any memoir, just to have those images or those notes or things that, if you have them. And I know a lot of us do not have them. I've had a lot of my stuff destroyed, and I would never have journaled as a child. It would have been like way too dangerous. But, if you have them, then that's really awesome, right? Food for thought. Now, awards and reviews. So let me just make sure I'm getting this right. Hey Kiddo was a National Book Award finalist, and Kirkus Reviews called it one of the best books of 2018. It received excellent critical reviews, and it was worth it. Readers also loved it. Now, some readers called it difficult to read and not uplifting. Those are the two words that caught my mind. Difficult to read and not uplifting. Difficult to read. It wasn't difficult to read in the sense of the words weren't difficult. What they meant was, it's a heavy topic. And so it's challenging to keep moving through it, not wanting to close your eyes and move away. And it wasn't uplifting to them because of, what his life was like. It was not easy. And he wrote about his reality without softening the experience for sensitive readers. And I understand the perspective of the readers. It's I want to understand this life, but this is really, really, really hard to consume. And I understand it, but I don't agree. Because I think a book like that, and a book like mine, I think they were written for audiences that is their harsh reality. And so they don't want it sugar-coated. They want that real, raw experience. So they know, one, they're not the only people who have gone through it. And two, they can move through it and move to the other side. And I thought it was quite uplifting in the sense of you follow his path and you watch him go through all this challenging stuff, but then he finds his place in the world despite those struggles. And for me, that's uplifting. And I remember my first draft when I sent it to one of the developmental editors, they said that it was dark and heavy and there's humor and whatnot, but I didn't end up at that uplifting place. I didn't show that path enough. And so I added much more to the memoir to get that in. So I think that even a dark memoir, as long as you come up for some breath at the end and show how life can move on, I think that's an important part of a good YA memoir dealing with coming of age and trauma together, addiction in this case. So yeah, talking about that, Hey Kiddo and The Devil's Daughter. They both deal with addiction, crime, abuse. They do not shy away from the realities. Both books use graphic language for the same reason. They don't shy away from the reality of that author's experience. Where the books diverge, and this makes perfect sense, is in the writing style and the voice of the authors, where he's more matter of fact. I mean, he doesn't have to use imagery in his language because he's using images, whereas I'm not using images, so I use more imagery in the actual writing. My character is a little bit more of a sardonic teenager with a sardonic humor, I think. So, and I'm hoping the humor makes my book easier to read. And he didn't quite have that in there, but he had the images, which kind of served that same purpose. And so we're doing the same thing in some ways, but we're just coming to it in different ways because, of course, his is a graphic novel. Now as he said, so he has the benefit of images, and this really changes how you write. And that was a really interesting experience for me to see, this really changes how you write. So that's what I did this past week. What am I going to do this coming week? I don't know. I think what I'm going to do, I don't know what I'm going to do. I think what I'm going to do, I have 2 graphic novels that I want to read and compare to mine. I think I'll read the second graphic novel just because I'm in graphic novel mode. And so it's called King of King Court, and it's by, I have it here, Travis Dandro. And so I think that's what I'll do. Reading both graphic novels one after another is probably a good idea, and I will let you know how that goes next Monday. Happy